Have you ever seen one of those posts online where somebody's talking about how excited they are because they just achieved their 50th session of their long running campaign? And you think to yourself, how does an adult in the year 2026, with the sort of fractured lives we live and all these sort of things that are vying for our attention, how does anybody manage to get a group together and play for that period of time, that extended period of time? How does that actually happen? I'm here to tell you how it's worked for me and my group. And maybe some of that'll help you if you're thinking about trying to pull together a long running campaign. First, what do we mean when we say campaign? A campaign to me is akin to a long running dramatic series on HBO or Netflix, something like The Sopranos or Deadwood, or pick your favorite long running show, where from one session to the next, from one episode to the next, you got the same core characters operating in the same setting, and their stories are able to grow. They're able to have many, many adventures, and it, if you do it right, culminates in some very satisfying ending. So that's what, to me, campaign play is about. A short campaign for me is usually something in the neighborhood of 1 to 10 or 15 sessions, and then 15 or more I would categorize as long, but everybody has their own interpretation, their own definition. The point is that a long campaign really gives you the ability to dig in and delve into your characters and dig into the game world and get really, really immersed in it. And setting first is all about that feeling of engagement, that feeling of verisimilitude, of being really dialed into the setting. And the longer the campaign, the more opportunities you have to do that. I want to hit something right off the bat about what the most important thing is when you're trying to pull together an extended campaign. The most important thing is the people who are going to be playing that campaign. You're going to be sitting around a table or in a virtual environment with these people, session after session after session. Their characters might be interesting, the game world might be interesting, but if you don't mesh with those people, if you can't connect with them, if you can't feel comfortable, if you can't enjoy being around them, if you're sort of sacrificing any of those things in service of the game, that's going to be a problem. Really what you need is you need to be with people that you're going to enjoy playing the game with for a long period of time. That's why I think rule number one for any planning that you're going to do for a campaign is that you need to have already played with these people. You need to know that you're going to be able to get along with these people, you're going to enjoy each other's company, you're going to be able to feed off each other creatively in that way that happens when you're sort of doing that sort of most optimum, most fun, most exciting role playing. Now, this begs the question, how do I find the right people? I know that for many people, finding a good gaming group is one of the most challenging things about sort of the environment that we're all living in and operating in right now. First, I would say there's all the usual sort of suspects. You can look online, there's online tools, there's the tools on Reddit, there's tools on all these other game related platforms for finding people to play virtually. For me, in-person play is sort of the pinnacle of the gaming experience, and that's really important to me. I know that it's not for everybody, but if you're looking to get together with people in person, something that might not be terribly obvious is that you can get together with people and not actually play games, but you can meet with them and chat and socialize with them first before you actually play any games. And that's kind of a really low risk, low stress way of sort of finding the right people. Locally, about 2.5 years ago, we set up just that. I made a video about this, which I'll link to in the notes. We call it the Gamer Gaggle. As a matter of fact, we have one later today. We do it the second Saturday of every month, and it's just a way for people who play tabletop RPGs to get together and meet and mingle and chat. We pick a topic that's sort of a starter topic for each of these gaggles. And then after we talk through the starter topic, we have lots of conversation. People shift off and start talking about whatever else is going on. And we've been doing it for long enough that even though the same people don't come to these gatherings every time, we get a really good mix, usually anywhere from about 15 to 20, 25 people. So it's a really great way of getting to meet people, and plenty of gaming groups have sort of come out of this gaggle. And again, it's because it gives you that opportunity. It's a low stress low threat environment. You're just meeting people, you're just chatting with them, you're finding out what they like about role-playing games, which games they played, what kinds of stuff they're interested in, and you get to suss them out as people as well. And that really, really works well. There are also, when we're doing this, again, we're doing this locally, there are games where you can get together with folks at the library. Libraries can be a really good source of gamers, and in some libraries around the country, I can't speak for outside the United States, but in some places in the United States, there are one-shot games and pickup games that people will put together and run in the library. And we're doing that now at 3 different libraries in the county, which is fantastic. And so that's another way that you can meet people before you necessarily are getting into something long-term with them. And then once you find some people that you're having a good time, maybe playing one-shots or maybe 2 or 3 shot games, if you're interested in getting together and doing a campaign, I think one of the most important things is to not sort of overstress it. Don't put too much load on it. You just want to get a campaign going and see where it's going and see if it's gelling. And if it does, then you can build on that and make it longer and turn it into something more extensive. But don't put too much pressure on it. Don't make it something bigger than it needs to be. The group that I've been gaming with, we have a core group of 3 of us, and then other people who've sort of come and gone around that. But the core of the 3 of us, we've been gaming for almost 20 years now. And that started when I got invited I through an online platform, through meetup.com. I found this group. They needed somebody to fill in for somebody else who'd left the area, and they were playing Call of Cthulhu. So I jumped in and we played Call of Cthulhu. We sort of wrapped up the scenario that they'd been playing. And then we started playing another game. And over time, we played enough of those sort of 1, 2, 3 shot and small campaign games that we recognized that we were going to be good for long-term campaign play. And we've since played several campaigns, all of which are over 20 sessions long, the longest of which is something like 92 sessions long at this point. And again, it was just because we made sure that we were gelling first before we started moving off into campaign playing. Now, there's a lot of debate in gaming circles about sort of the importance of a game. Are the game mechanics, the game rules super important? Are they not all that important? And I'm not going to say that the game rules dictate the quality of play, but some games are better suited to long-term campaign play than others. And the way that I think of that is that there are games that are foundational games. I've made 3 videos about 3 different foundational games. One of them is Degenesis, one of them is Eclipse Phase, and one of them is RuneQuest. And you can look at the videos to see why, but 2 of the main differentiators that sort of make a foundational setting are breadth and depth. So breadth means you can do lots of different kinds of things in this game world. So for example, in Eclipse Phase, you can be hanging out on Mars doing crimes on Mars. And every once in a while you get called to try to save humanity. You can be a trader, trading out in the Outer Rim, going to all the strange locales that people have set up out there. You could be doing spy work against the Jovian government or for the Jovian government. You can have extended campaigns in any one of those things in this setting because it goes so broad. It's got so much there. And then depth is for each of those things that you're sort of trying to do in the game world, how much support is there for it? How much material is there for it? So RuneQuest is a really good example of something that's extremely deep in some areas. So if you're in the Dragon Pass region of Glorantha, the setting, there's just tons and tons of adventures and all kinds of stuff, setting books and things, not just for the current version, but for previous versions of the game, all of which can be used. So you could do a campaign in Dragon Pass, go for 40 or 50 sessions, then start up a new campaign doing something very different in the same region. And there's so much going on, there's so much depth that the setting is going to support that. So I noticed that I talked about foundational settings here. So the setting is, I think, extremely important. You need to, as the GM, you really need to feel like, man, this setting is just going to be something I'm going to love playing in. And the amount of support that the publisher and third parties provide for that setting is also going to have an impact. And it depends on you and sort of how much you like to build out the setting yourself and how much you want to rely on published adventures. But the more published adventures there are and the more setting books, sort of source books, things that provide material about the world, the easier it makes it for you. Even if you're making up your own adventures, you get a lot more hooks. You got a lot more things that you can do with the world with that setting. So that's the setting aspect of it. Now the game mechanics, the way I think of the game mechanics might be seen a little contrarian or a little bit weird, but basically for if you're trying to do a long campaign, or if you think your campaign might go long, you want it to, you want to be using mechanics that don't bother anybody. So everybody in your group needs to be comfortable with the mechanics. It's not necessarily that they're the sort of, in the abstract, the best, most awesome, most wonderful, most novel mechanics, but they're mechanics that are workable for the setting and that allow the players to really deeply engage with it. One good example of this is in the Star Wars, the FFG/Edge Star Wars books. There's so much for players to do, and there's so many different things players can do, and the player characters, the way that advancement works, they can be engaged with the mechanics around characters for a long, long time. Games like RuneQuest are very similar, where you're continuing to get better and better, and you're trying to think about which skills you're going to sort of try to get better at, and there's a whole lot of sort of thinking that the characters can do, or the players can do around their characters. So if the mechanics sort of support long-term play, they don't get in the way, that's more important than being, I think, than them being novel and awesome and fantastic. Like a good example of this is Outgunned is a fantastic game. It's a great system. We just got done playing, I guess, a short to medium length campaign, maybe just under 20 sessions. Lots of fun. It's not really ideally suited to long-term campaign play, and that's not really what it's about. It doesn't advertise itself as that. It's a movie for making, or it's a it's a game for making action flicks, basically. So you want to just be mindful of that. Sometimes what happens is people get all excited about the latest thing, and it's, oh, hey, these mechanics are fantastic. This game is really going to be amazing. But really, you're in it for the long term. So you want to think about, are these mechanics going to serve our purposes and not be something that gets in the way, as opposed to the mechanics being something that's wild and exciting. For that reason, D100 mechanics are generally really well suited for long-term campaign play, assuming that you like D100 mechanics. If you don't, if you're not comfortable with it, if it frustrates you, then you should definitely pick something else. So if you manage to get the right group of people together, and you manage to find the right game, and you're thinking about, okay, how do we get this thing going? How do we make this thing consistent? How do we get a campaign rolling and make sure that it's going to have a decent chance of continuing? I mentioned earlier that the world we're living in right now is just full of distractions. It's fragmented. It's full of other things, calling for our attention and our time. In the early days of tabletop role-playing, this is pre-internet. Before the internet, there was a dearth of information. It was an information desert. If you wanted to go out and get information, you'd go to the library and you'd look for a book about information about something, or you'd look for a magazine or something. And the magazine the article had probably been written several weeks before the magazine actually came out. If you're looking for a book on something, the book was probably 3 or 4 years old and the information might be out of date. And you just had to go to a lot of lengths to get that stuff. And then you had a few channels of stuff on TV, and it was just random chance as to whether you'd find something that you wanted to watch. With the advent of the internet, of course, and social media and everything else, now it's about filtering out the amount of stuff that's coming at you. It's about curating our attention. And curating our attention is difficult. It is not easy. It's the kind of thing where we blame ourselves, we get blamed. There's all these articles about how you can be smarter with your time and all this stuff, but we're up against a juggernaut. The technology industries that produce all this stuff they want our attention. Our attention is money for them. So it's no surprise that it's a challenge for everybody to get any time or any attention to themselves and to sort of wall it off. So I give you that preface because when I say what I'm about to say, I don't want it to sound like I'm sort of being offhanded or that I don't understand the context we're all operating in. But it's really, really important if you want to have a long running campaign that the people in your group make engagement in that campaign a priority. And I'm talking about a priority for their leisure time. So this is one of the things that happens when you talk about this online. If you say something online like, hey, you need to make this a priority, people say, yeah, but I've got kids and I've got work and things come up. And oh, yes, of course they do. Nobody is saying that running your campaign or playing in your campaign is more important than your kids or more important than your relationships or more important than anything else. But we do have leisure time. Some of us have just a little bit, some of us have more, some of us have a lot. But all of us have some measure of leisure time. So if you want a campaign and you want to get the rewards of that, socializing with friends, getting together, putting this dynamic world together, putting it in motion and having amazing adventures, you do need to wall that time off, and you have to make that time sacred, for lack of a better term. The way that we do this is that Friday night is our default. At 7 o'clock, game night starts on Friday. Does that mean that we're there every Friday playing? No, it does not. But there's no question as to timing. There's no question as to the schedule. It's always Friday at 7. If somebody's going to be out, maybe we'll continue to play without them. Maybe we won't. It depends on where we are in the campaign and what's going on. But it's accepted, it's understood that everybody has things that come up. But the main point of that prioritizing it and pre-scheduling it is that when other things do come up that are sort of less important, that might pop up onto our radar, we can say, you know what, I already have something planned. I've already got something going on. It makes it easier. It's one less thing to sort of think about, and you don't have to make as many decisions about it. You can say, hey, this is my priority for my leisure time. Again, for my leisure time. And what ends up happening in practice, at least for our group, is that we wind up probably playing, I don't know, there's 52 weeks in a year. We probably end up playing something like 27 or 28 sessions a year, which, okay, it's roughly half. But that's actually quite a lot. That's a lot of gaming. If you figure 3 or 4 hours per session, that's a lot of gaming that we can get in a year. And it's just a lot less stress and a lot less sort of emotional overhead around prioritizing and planning. But you got to get that buy-in from folks. People have to commit to that and say, yeah, this is something I'm here for. I'm going to do it. And if they can't, or if circumstances change, and they can't do it, it needs to be understood that that's okay, that's fine, that's the way life is, and you can exit the campaign, and we'll look around and see if we can find somebody else to bring in. That's, like I said, it's more than okay. I think sometimes there's this sort of feeling or expectation these days that everything is contingent and everybody should always be open to sort of optionality. Like I can at any time I can choose to do this A, or I can choose to do B, which is in the moment much more interesting and exciting. And it seems like giving yourself another commitment is a negative, but this is a commitment to yourself. This is a commitment to your time, to your enjoyment. And again, it's a commitment to something social. I can only speak for myself, but I work from home. I'm on video calls all the time, every week. That's not the same thing as socializing. That's not the same thing as being with other people. And that's why I prioritize in-person time, and that's why I prioritize game night with my friends, because that is real engagement with people. And we all need that, and everybody's read all this stuff about how everybody's lonely and relationships are a dying art and all this. And so I really do think it is important. Again, just me and my experience, but our group, I think, has gotten a lot of value out of this time that we spend together, many Fridays over the last many years. So the 3 things so far: finding the right people, finding the right setting and mechanics, and then committing to a schedule. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 2 weeks, whatever the schedule is that's right for you and your folks, but making it something that's ironclad. Those 3 things should get you in the door for running a campaign. It should get you going. I'm really, really curious if you have experience either trying and not succeeding and getting campaigns going, or succeeding in having long-running campaigns. What your experience has been, how you go about it, what are your frustrations, what are the things that you've done that have worked. Please let us know in the comments or in our Small but Mighty Discord, which you can find the link to in the notes. As always, thanks for watching.